Morning. Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday. It is just after 10 a.m. It is time for Founder Facebook Live. Do you want to see what mug I chose today? I chose the... You may think that I'm listening to you, but in my head I'm doing gymnastics mug. I thought that was pretty cool. Right, I can see some of us are joining us. Hi, Pat. Oh, I can wave to you. This is new. Hi. And hi, Nikki. Thanks for joining me. I can see some of the others of you are here that I don't know you're here. So if you're not a Facebook friend of mine, you'll need to put a little emoji or hi in the comments. Let me know that you are here. That would be great. I hope you have a suitable beverage. This is Founder Facebook Live, just why I do these in my kitchen because it feels like a very Saturday morning thing to do. Plus, you know, lockdown. I suppose I could go to the gym, but no. So we got a biggie topic today. So we're going to talk about Athlete A. I would love to know as you roll in, if you've watched it, type me a yes. If you haven't, type a no or a not yet or whatever. Just let me know who's actually watched it, because although Athlete 8 is the inspiration, there's some bigger things we're talking about here that actually, ironically, I was talking about a couple of weeks ago. As you'll see as we go through, I can see more of you are joining us. So do type me in the comments. Hi, Mum. I can wave to you now. That's cool. Type me in a yes if you've seen it, no if you haven't, or a not yet, or what your thoughts are around Athlete A. Whilst I drink a bit more coffee and a few more of us join in. Pat, you've seen it. Awesome. Mum's giving me a thumbs up. Awesome, always useful to know. Nikki says not yet. Those of you that are thinking, what is Athlete A? It is a... Hi, Sean. Hope chatting Athlete A and a few bigger things today, so let me know. Morning, whoa, all in caps. Yikes, okay, how many coffees is that, Sean? I mean, I'm only on a decaf today, so... So yeah, Athlete A, if you haven't heard of it, is a documentary that came out on Netflix about a week and a half ago. Hi, Becky. And it covers a lot of the story of what happened in the USA between their lead organisation, USAG, and their team, Dr. Larry Nassar, who is, it's Google it if you'd like to learn more. I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs on it, but basically there was a big abuse scandal, as well. I say scandal. He's in jail, basically, put it that way. It's a biggie story. I'll leave the media to bring you up to date on that. Athlete A tells the story of this, and for me raises some other things as to why it happened and a few things around it. So it's not just about this court case with this individual. For me, it's the wider impact of the sport and what happened to create it. That's my main takeaway from it. So, yeah, love to know if you've seen it. Do type me yes or no or not yet, whatever. Let me know if you have watched it, or if you plan to. The timing of this is quite spectacular because there's been a few things that have gone on in gymnastics in the last week anyway. There was a lawsuit between British gymnastics and UK gymnastics, which the results, that's been going on for a couple of years actually, but this stuff all happens at the same time, doesn't it? The results of that came in literally in the last week, like just after this documentary landed, and I think the way BG handled some of that announcement in, you know, probably was not sensibly too much regards, you know, with this Athlete A coming out. Over the last week or so, there's been an awful lot of elite athletes are starting to speak out on social media and things like that. It's getting quite big within the gymnastics community. So that's why I wanted to do, well, that's not why actually, but I wanted to do my Founder Facebook Live on this topic today because I wanted to share with you what my main takeaways are from it, and how that has already influenced what we do here and how I think we can shape our sport going forward. So that's my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But I thought I would share with you my main takeaway from it. Now, I'm aware it's Saturday, it's 10 a.m. You may have young people around you. Athlete A on Netflix is an advisory item for over 15s to watch, for good reason, and I would love you all as I know normally on Facebook I'm mainly talking to parents here, but I know I may not be entirely. There may be some of our younger gymnasts here, so I want to make it really clear that it isn't over 15s watch, and I do advise young people to talk to parents regarding this, and parents talk to it with your children. I'm not saying that you should go and watch this if you're a young person. I believe it should be a parental guided item. So please just be aware of that. I won't talk today about too much of the ins and outs of the story and the stuff that is obviously a 15 plus type item here on a Facebook Live page. What I will share with you is my main takeaway, which is to do with the cultural aspects of the sport and what we can do going forwards on that, and that is a suitable topic for all. So just to let you know, I'm not trying to throw under the rug any of the stuff that went on, but it is for conversation to be done in the right settings, and some of that is not this Facebook Live on a Saturday morning. Okay, so my main thoughts on Athlete A. Do let me know as you jump in whether you've seen it or not, whether you are thinking, what are you talking about, Jen? That's fine, you can type me that. So my thoughts, as always, is always the future thoughts. It's always looking at two ways, and something big comes up. There's obviously the thing, and that needs to be dealt with, and it will be. I'm confident it will, of these gymnasts are starting to speak up and all of that sort of thing. I'm not discrediting that. That needs to happen. But my input is in two different places. I feel it's one place. It's in looking at what actually what actually created this in the first place, or allowed this to be something that could happen. And then also more proactively, how can we change that going forward so that it doesn't happen again? How can we actually be proactive? It's not just, oh my God, this thing happened and this is a nightmare. It's like, okay, great. How do we move ourselves forwards? That's always my sort of thought, is how do we actually lead this forwards? Looking into what actually created it, what do we want going forwards? It's quite a proactive view. So that's my main approach to it. So my main takeaway is that there is some really, I don't want to use the word wrong, but wrong beliefs about gymnastics culturally, and about sport, to be honest, that we have as a wider society, not just within the gymnastics world, but a wider one, that has meant that stuff has been able to progress in this way. Obviously there's poor behaviour here, and that needs to be addressed separately, but the poor behaviour wouldn't have happened if there wasn't the right culture to be there to be able to create it, if that makes sense. And there's two main parts for me that's my main takeaway, and this is referenced actually in the documentary fairly early on, is that gymnastics used to be an adult sport. And there's a few really nice little scenes early on in the documentary about, and you see them, they are women and they're winning all the medals, and they're competing, and it was a women's sport. I mean, you've got to go back quite a long way now. We're going back, I don't know, 50s, 60s kind of time, possibly a bit later. I'll need to check that out entirely, but it wasn't always a child's sport. And then what happened was, in sort of the 70s, 80s, we had the rise of sort of the Eastern Bloc, then creating these gymnasts that the world looked at and went, oh my God, that child can do that amazing trick. Isn't that incredible? Oh my God. And then from there on in, it's now we've got stuck in this, gymnastics is a child's sport. You have to be small to do it. You have to be young. You have to basically be trained from a very, very young age to make it. Those sorts of things have been in place in our sport for a really, really long time. And that then gets reinforced by us culturally watching stuff as well. So it then becomes, not just within the gymnastics world, people go, right, I need to go and get a 6-year-old, I need to train them at 10 hours a week. You think this sounds nuts, but that's entirely correct. That is what happens in elite gymnastics. And what I'm saying is perhaps we start challenging that. We see less of these types of bullying incidents happening in the men's game. I mean, it's still there, but think about the men, they get to compete longer. They hit their stride in their 20s. From the women's side of things, you've got to be 16 to compete at the Olympics, and that's only been in for about 10, 15 years. I think you could compete younger before that point. But yeah, this whole concept that you have to basically hit your peak at age 16, you get your shot at the Olympics, you might do a second one maybe, and then you're done. That point is creating so many things. It creates all the pressure. It creates us having elite children athletes who, they're children, right? We need to teach them and guide them in how to be. They don't know. I mean, gymnastics can teach us so much. This is why I love this sport. It can teach us so much, and it's such a beautiful sport. Those are two main aspects why we love it and why we want it to be here. But in the wrong way, it can create some negativity. You've got young athletes that don't necessarily know how to handle themselves. They don't necessarily know what behaviour around them is acceptable and what isn't. And that's where this culture can produce the ability for someone to have too much power over someone else, and it all to get a bit negative. And it's the pressure. Then second part, apart from the gymnastics as a child sport part, the other part is that us as a wider community, we glorify the sacrifice and the winning and the new tricks and the high achieving. We do. We look at it and go, wow, that's great. Let's do more. We're going to pay to watch that top level game. We want our child to do the top squad. We want them to be, we want to see more and more tricks, harder tricks. We look at a video of an 8-year-old doing some kind of crazy double back and we go, wow, isn't she amazing? So we're then supporting and reinforcing that belief. That's what we want, is we want to see younger people doing more tricks, and we want them to be the best. There's another part in Athlete A regarding Kerri Strug at the 96? I believe 96 Olympics. It's one's in Atlanta, the home games, where the Magnificent Seven won. Which I remember massively because I was a keen gymnast at that point. It was exactly like probably the main Olympics that I remember growing up. And she hurts her ankle on her first vault, and you can see her walking down to the end of the runway and she's shaking it, and she's clearly injured. I mean, she fell on the first vault and hence the ankle, but she does the second vault. I think at the time it was done that she needed the score. I believe someone's gonna have to go and do some maths on this. I believe they possibly would have won without it, but it would have been really, really, really close. Someone needs to go and do some maths on that. I remember hearing that somewhere, and I haven't fact checked that one. But either way, it becomes this big story where we glorify her basically injuring herself for the win. And that's, I mean, sometimes in elite sport there's maybe that is part of it, but should it be? Should it be us as spectators? We watched it and went, wow, what did she do for her country? That is amazing. We want to reward that. You know, should we be rewarding that? Should we have actually been more rewarding of her going, do you know what, my foot is hurting. I've got to live the rest of my life with this foot. I need to go and take care of my body. You know, and the culture at that point would never have done that. She would never have done that. I know she would have gone and done that vault no matter what. I'm saying we've created that culture that creates that it is glorified that you go and hurt yourself in the name of sport. Is that really what we want to do going forwards? Is that it? I've got some comments here, so I'm gonna pause and have a little read. Trish, she says, seems to be the same for girls generally in our culture. Yeah, and so agreed. Good. Glad you agree. You're glad I hope I'm communicating what I mean in some way that's clear. This is a challenging one to come through because it's challenging some biggie stuff. Pat says, they said the team needed her score to win. Yeah, they did say that, Pat. And I remember hearing something afterwards, like a couple of years later, that actually they would have won anyway. But I haven't fact-checked that. I think it's probably useful to go back and have a look. But yeah, certainly the knowledge at that point did seem to be that she needed that score. So did she really need that score, or was that because it was going to create the drama? I mean, I think in that setting, there's no way she would have not done that vault. There's absolutely no way. But with a different culture in place, it might mean if that occurs, say, in 5-10 years' time, the culture might have been, you've hurt your foot, you're not doing that vault. You know? Sean said, isn't that where no pain, no gain comes from? Yeah. Maybe, and I challenge that as well. I don't think there has to be pain. I think there needs to be dedicated commitment and self-discipline and focus and drive and visualising what you want and where you want to get there and fierce commitment to it. I don't think it has to be painful though. Not in the name of just pain. It's not like, right, I'm just going to hurt myself to get there. I don't think that's correct, and I think that is one of the things we've got a little bit looped up wrong. So, those are my main 2 takeaways, really. Let me check my notes, check there's nothing else I wanted to say. So, there's a few things that I think have happened in the gym world in the last little while. Actually, first, let me talk about the UK BG thing. This is another part of what happened, I think, in the US, is that you've got, there are actually several organisations in the US that run gymnastics type things. USAG being, well, now it's a little different, but they were certainly the biggest kind of, the one that puts together the Olympic team, right? That's a little bit changed since it's gone on. Obviously, the organisation still exists, which for me I think is a problem. I think it should have just gone. They've kind of reinvented a few times, but is that enough? That's another issue. What's happened in the UK over here is we've got British Gymnastics have been the national governing body forever. Certainly my entire lifetime. There are other organisations now running gymnastics. People do gymnastics in private environments, as in you just go and get an insurance policy and you go and do your gymnastics. We've got dance schools that run gymnastics now. That's quite a big thing in dance. We've seen that in the last 5 to 10 years. We've got leisure centres that run gymnastics. And then we've got UK gymnastics, which some of you know, we are a UKG affiliated club. We were British Gymnastics until last year. So for literally all 13 years of our existence up until that point, we're now UKG, for very, very many reasons, which is a whole other story that I've told some of, and it's for another day. So there's a lawsuit going on between BG and UKG, and now it's over branding, and I will let the people that are actually involved in that actually give you facts. So I'm not going to go too far into details, but it's over branding and passing off, and there's also a little bit about what a governing body means and who can be one. That's the part that's scary. Now, we need to have more than one organisation running sport. I strongly believe that, because if you don't, it's like everyone being told to shop at Tesco. Now, could you imagine a world where only Tesco existed? Like, we have laws against that. They're anti-competition laws. It's recognised that there needs to be a choice to, you know, for consumers and for basically the good of everything, right? We need the same in sport. Now, Swansea's got to go. Bye, love you too. Enjoy your coffee. So, where was I? Got distracted by coffee. Typical Saturday morning topic, huh? Right, Tesco. So, I do think there needs to be a broadness now, and I think that is something that has been coming up in all sorts of areas of the world right now, in that diversity is a good thing and we need more of it. So the fact that these two organisations are having kind of a lawsuit over it, I think, I sense underneath it that BG is a little bit scared of the competition. And it doesn't need to be, because our sport is so freaking awesome and it's so diverse as a sport. There's totally room for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 organisations. Obviously, we have our Sapphire cheerleaders. There isn't one governing body in cheerleading. Kind of in some ways would be helpful if there was, but there isn't. There are several different organisations, and that works really, really well. In a lot of places, we go to different events run by different companies. There's different places that run different coaching. It's all kind of more of a melting pot, and you can go and pick and choose the bits that work for you, and that is really, really powerful. It's really beneficial for an industry, for us to be able to go and do different things, different places. Now, we do need some overriding standards that I would agree on. There needs to be something that is nationally held so that people are not, you know, taking undue risks or coaching or operating in an unsafe way. There's obviously industry standards, but once we have one organisation setting the industry standards, everyone else should be able to go and run off their own thing, and it really, really helps our sport. It's diversifying it. It also helps us prevent things like what happened in the US, where you have basically one organisation with all the power, and that is where you then get a position of too much power over young gymnasts, or over anyone, but combined with the child sport thing, recipe for disaster. So I do trust that in this country we are definitely fighting for the fact that there needs to be more than one organisation. We might have some of the UK guys watching today. Hi, if it's you, type me an emoji, say hi, I'd love to see you if you're in support. There being more than one organisation, essentially. I'll let the others go into politics and that, but I think there needs to be choice. And if one organisation has all the power, like BG possibly does, it's hard. There's no one to then check you on it. It's when the organisation runs stuff and does the safeguarding on it. It's tricky because it's all in-house. And I think we need a wider base of sort of support and of, what's the word? Just support, but of checking basically, you know, it shouldn't be checked in-house by something. It needs to be someone else external needs to come in and go, right, no, that's wrong, or that's right, you know, let me help you with that. It's hard for one organisation to set the rules and govern them. I think that's a bad idea. So that's the other thing that's happening in gymnastics at the moment this now. And I'm confident that there will be more organisations, in fact even more maybe than BG and UKG, maybe there'll be other ones. That would be cool, because then we could all work together better. I think that is kind of my vision for the sport, you know, going forwards really. So that's one of the reasons that the whole Athlete A incident was able to happen, was one organisation, all the power, all the verification, all in-house. Bad idea. Bad idea. So, right, so I'm going to try and summarise this up as to where we then go, because all of this stuff is lots and lots of stuff, but it's my thoughts, let me distill them down, is that our sport is beautiful and beneficial massively to everyone. Now, we've been banding around this whole gymnastics for all for quite a long time, but what does that actually mean? For me, it means more adults involved in gymnastics, and that is actually a culture change. We typically have this concept that it's a child sport. I mean, that is probably at the competitive end to be changed first. I mean, if you started to see athletes on the TV at the Olympics who were 20s, 30s, 40s. Now, there is one, lovely Oksana Chusovitina, apologies if I said her name incorrectly, because every announcer I've heard announce her name on the TV over my lifetime I've been watching her has said it differently, so I'm not quite sure the right pronunciation. But Oksana has competed in like 7 Olympic Games. She is awesome. Check her out. Also, there's, and I don't know her name, but there's a 90-year-old lady, a German lady, who you possibly might have seen in the media doing a parallel bars routine. I know she's been on the UK TV, on ITV and things a couple of years ago. And there's a culture there in Germany where they have events that are a little more accessible to older adults. That is totally what we need. We need to shift that culture. We don't, you know, we should be able to be the 90-year-old woman in a leotard. I kind of hope that I'll be that person. I'm going to need to train more, I think, even now. But what if we had that belief that it is not just a children's sport? What if it was normal for 90-year-olds to be doing, I mean, okay, 90 maybe is a little exceptional, but what if it was normal for adults to be competing in gymnastic events? Now, we know the sport is really beneficial. We teach it to our children, right? What if we actually use those benefits ourselves? How would that be? That would be pretty cool, right? Yeah, how would it be if, yeah, Sandra says, you will be flying? Yeah, wouldn't it be cool? We got this whole thing where people, I go, oh, you come to a gym class, and they're like, you know, they're laughing, and half of it is covering up some embarrassment, and the other half is genuine. It's like, but no, gymnastics is a child sport. No, I would greatly challenge that, and that's something I'd like us as Affinity to do. Now, we've been long held that belief, long held it, but they're not massively stepped into the adult gymnastics arena. And at a point of COVID where we're struggling to bring anything back, being that we're shut, it's a challenge, but it's something I definitely am going to start doing, that there'll be more about it. It's what we teach our children, us as adults, guys, like, we need it more. So I'm going to start helping that, bring what we do in terms of gymnastics, in terms of joy and fun in movement, bringing that to adults as well, somehow. Then I know there's ways of doing it, so that's something I'll be looking to. Mum says on silks. Yeah, we don't do silks at Affinity, but whatever anyone wants to do, any activity as an adult, whether that be silks or gymnastics or anything, any sport that you possibly might have thought was a child sport, do it as an adult. Why not? So we need to shift that view, and then that will come through the elite sport as well. If that means we were to perhaps place age restrictions, I mean, at the moment you have to be 16. What if you had to be 18? What if you had to be 20? You know, and so on to compete. That would start changing what we see on TV. If on TV we're seeing adults competing in gymnastics, then adults will compete in gymnastics. So it's got to come from all sorts of areas around. The other wider bit is obviously about us as just a general nation of, actually, let's have a think what we want to see. Do we want to see someone sacrificing themselves in a negative way for an achievement? Do we wish our children to do that? Should we, in fact, actually praise the effort and the enjoyment a bit more? Which is something we've already been about here, but actually placing it even stronger up our to-do list because of where it can help us as a sport. Some places are doing it really well. NCAA in the States, the collegiate gymnastics, is epic. when you watch that, you see athletes. They're still college kids, so they're older. They're 18 to early 20s type age, and they are loving it. And there are so many athletes that have been through the elite gymnastics side who then move over to college gymnastics, and they're like different people. You see them develop more as people, and they are loving it. They enjoy it. They are dancing their floor routines like with their whole hearts. It's not just robot movements. It's they're loving it. That is really right. Can we do more like that in the UK? We had Champions of Gymnastics. Was an event was on, I believe, last year, and it was like a big show, and it took all the big elite stars, but it gave them fun routines to do. They didn't do their normal comp routine. They did it in some of the more entertaining, kind of more performance way. That was really cool. So we need more things like that. BG didn't like that event much, I have to say. It's the wrong attitude, right? We need to diversify the sport. I think generally we leave happiness and enjoyment at the forefront of everything, whether that's your child going to class, check in with them. How was gym today? Did you enjoy it? Should be the question, not how was gym today? Did you do your backflip? Just these little changes. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now. I would love to hear your thoughts. What was if you watched Athlete A, what was your main takeaway? What do you think we can do to help change? So I've given you some of my thoughts on that it is not a child sport and we need to be more proactive there. And as a culture, what do we reward? Should it be looking after ourselves for the long term better over the glory in that one moment? Those would be my solutions. But what are your thoughts? Have you not watched it, but you might go watch it now? What might you do in future? What do you think? Now you might need to go and have a think and come back, so you can reflect on that and post on this later, and I'll jump back into the comments. But yeah, I'd love to know just your main takeaway, your main thing that you're thinking about right now. Just check if I've missed any comments. There we go. Okay. Oh, I'm back. Dodgy connection. Don't have fibre optic cables here, but I think I'm back. Alright, so main takeaways, we've got a couple here. So, Sandra says, uni gym comps like the collegiate system in USA. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I mean, and also it's a big spectator sport in the US as well. It's one reason why it's all funded. It's a really cool thing. So yeah, maybe we can do something like that, older people in it. Listen to the gymnast more. Yeah, I mean, that's been in the culture, but we need to do it more, like more. Definitely. I've got some thoughts on that already within our club, but I hope other clubs can think about that too. Nikki says it needs to be more process focused than goal focused. Yeah, exactly. If we put it into, process focused. I think what you mean by processed focus, but I would think things like, let's focus on, if we put our energy on, have you enjoyed it? Have you tried your best? Were you determined today? Were you self-disciplined? These sorts of things that actually leads to the, actually achieving stuff anyway. Tracy's watching. Hi, Tracy. Trish says there will always be some kids who really want to go into the Olympics. Yeah, there absolutely will. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. For those kids, can we actually, if it's for them, can we make their careers longer? Why should it be one Olympics? Why can it not be 7 or 8 like Oksana? Why can they not be professional athletes like we might be in other sports? That if we could change the rules in that would mean those kids could train and have a slightly more relaxed route to it. You maybe don't need to do 30 hours a week at age 9, or whatever the arrangement is. It may not be 30. It could be something like 15. There are rules around this. What if we relaxed that to spread it out so that actually it wasn't one shot at 16, but it was a career? Brenda says, what about male gymnasts? Are they generally older? Do you think there's a divide? They are generally older. They have different rule age groups, I believe. Or is it just the culture? But generally, yes. Male gymnasts tend to start a little bit later and they have more time as very young children, typically, is what we call it. It's that before they hit having to compete at top level. Let's just do that with women, right? I think also there's some misconceptions about that you need to be a child and you have not to hit puberty to perform correctly, but that's That's totally wrong. There is obviously when a child, particularly I guess when a woman hits puberty and their body changes, you do have to then train differently, and you know, your centre of mass moves and all of that stuff. But if we actually then delayed the training, serious, you know, so that we practiced and we built up stuff, and then we hit puberty and then learnt the top skills, we wouldn't have to relearn them twice. It would actually be easier. So yeah, I think push them older, and the fact that they are older does help, definitely. Nikki says that's what I meant. Awesome. Yeah. Simon says men are stronger when they're older. Yes, it's known that you don't build strength until you have more testosterone. It's the same for women, actually. So there is an element of, why are we putting so much effort into training prepubescent gymnasts when they can't really build lots of muscle until they hit puberty and have more testosterone? Hi, Hayley. Yeah. So that's nuts. Like, why are we doing that? Yeah? The men's sport is already showing us some way forwards, although that doesn't mean to say that this doesn't happen in the men's sport too. It's just, they're a little bit older, a little bit more resourced, have a bit more time, a bit more chilled, right? So, I think we've probably done enough chatting for one morning. Thank you for joining me. Do feel free to keep writing your comments here, and as you reflect on it, do come back. If it's something you want to send me a private message about, that is totally cool. If you think this video may help anyone or anyone else in the gymnastics industry or wider, because what I've been talking about is kind of bigger cultural things, do share it. Yeah, please share the video if this is helpful that you think for any of your friends or contacts. And let me know how you're going with it, what we're going to do next. Quite exciting, huh? All right, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Oh, hang on, now I have more comments, just as I was going to go. Okay, right, I'll read your last one. So I've got, Pat says, make everyone feel they're able to achieve their best. 100%. Everyone. And it doesn't matter what that best is, right? Pat also says, a forward roll should be celebrated as much as a higher skill. I'm 100% with you, Pat. What we need to do is make sure the culture around us is supportive of that too. We can lead that as gym clubs, and we need to maybe shout even louder to make the people that attend our clubs know that the fact that this child did a forward roll is the same as that child doing a double back. It doesn't matter what it is, they're all brilliant. Trish says 54 years old, can't do a handstand without pain. But would there be a way? Is it that actually are you just jumping into doing a handstand? What if we trained you up? What if we put in place? This is where science comes in. It's not just do a thing. And you may be doing this already, Trish. I don't know. I don't mean to make an assumption here. But what if it was, right, to do a handstand without pain, we need to have a body in alignment. We need to have all the required strength and flexibility bits to be able to do that. We need to have the appropriate angle at your wrist. We need to have the appropriate strength conditioning so that it doesn't hurt. What if you built all those things up? Then you might be able to do a handstand without pain. That's just what I'm saying. It's like science. Actually, this is decent training rather than just pushing and doing it, which is why children can get away with it. Often you can just go and do a handstand and they can do it at that age, but it's not long-term sustainable. Sandra says, male discipline is more strength focused. Do you mean discipline as in what they do? As in, we call them disciplines of gymnastics, the vault, the bars, the rings, whatever. It is a bit, but then they also have quite a lot of tumbling and things like that, which, yeah, is more strength, but often you see the more lightweight gymnasts being better at those skills. Trish says, weak menopause wrists. Yeah, that probably is a thing to think about, but there must be, if we know how to train adolescent gymnasts and through hormonal changes, there must be a way of training through the other hormonal changes at the other end of it. We just need to find out who knows that stuff and what we need to do. It might be like we know osteoporosis is a thing around sort of, the menopause time, and that the solution for that is to do a bit more impact work. What is there that can help? What are the changes in the wrists and the joints at that time of life, and what can we do to then counteract that? There must be something. If anyone's watching this who knows more about this area of hormonal change and just nutrition and science, let me know, because we could do a really cool collaboration. Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, Trish says, yes, and Sandra Page says, yep. Cool, right, this is where the delay thing, I was literally about to say bye and then all your comments rolled on in, so I'm going to have a few more sips of coffee. If you've got any more final comments on that, type them in. This has been fun. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've got a good rest of the weekend planned. Trisha would love that. Wouldn't it be cool? Let's find someone, yeah? I'm aware of someone working in Hertfordshire. He does a lot of work with nutrition and weight loss, actually, that I quite like to do a collaboration with, who I haven't made any contact with yet. It's been thinking in my brain. In my brain, of course, in my brain. Yeah, he runs an organisation called Rebel Fit. His name's Liam, and he's quite outspoken regarding. Actually, he's been talking about menopause recently and weight changes. So he could be a thing. Could be a person to talk to. Liam, if you're watching this, maybe I'll share this over with you. I think we could do some good collaboration on, the nutrition, and I know he works a lot on the mindset side of things, but then we can bring in the fun side of it and the skills, and work together progressively. That would be kind of cool. Sandra says U3A, here you go. Yeah, right. Who is in the U3A? Definitely we need to do older adult gymnastics, but to be honest, it starts with both ends. Doesn't need to be that age, it could be literally everyone. I'm going to need to find a way of getting you all off your sofas and doing cartwheels eventually after the required training, okay? Okay, I think that might be the end of the comments. Thanks again for joining me. Do share the video, particularly now as we've just been talking. Maybe there's other people can help us do this. So if you've got someone you think that might be able to help or might be involved, share this video with them. Let me know your other thoughts. So just balance is important at older age groups. Yeah, it's important at all age groups. This is actually where it's gone wrong down the other end, that these children are doing far too much elite and that's it. It's all balance, all about it. So it's exciting times. How can we shape it? It's pretty cool. So I look forward to being part of it. I look forward to you helping me with that too. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon.